All right, this question comes from Anonymous, and they say, this feels really weird or uncomfortable to ask, mostly because it seems so backwards. But I feel like my mom is jealous of me or my life. I can't really describe it other than a gut feeling. It feels like she isn't really happy for me, and when she tries to be, it feels forced. I know she's trying, and I don't want to call it fakeness, but it feels that way. How do I know if I can trust myself? Okay. First off, I just want to say, Anonymous, you are not crazy or dramatic for wondering this. This is really valid. That gut feeling that something's off between you and your mom, it's something that I've heard from clients before. It's something I've experienced, and it's actually something I hear a lot from people who grew up with emotionally immature parents or people who had narcissistic parents. I'm going to get into that a little bit, but it can feel very confusing when the very person who's supposed to be proud of you actually starts acting distant or competitive or a little strange when good things happen in your life. And it sounds like it's not a tangible example that you can give me. It sounds like it's something that you're feeling inside of you. So let's explore what might be happening here. From the pathological lens or the label lens, we could call this parental envy. Like I said, it's more common than people think. When our parents have unresolved trauma or unmet emotional needs from their own childhood or with their own parents, your growth and your success will actually stir up their own feelings of inadequacy or loss. Um, these become ancestral patterns of inadequacy or loss or insecurity. So it's not about you doing something wrong, Anonymous. It's about your success mirroring back what your parents may not have gotten to experience or heal in themselves. So instead of celebrating you, they're unconsciously feeling threatened. And this is when emotional immaturity enters the chat. And that can feel really backwards, right? Because you want to share your joy with your family. You know, all of us have this idea in our minds about what a family should look like or what a family should feel like. And a lot of the struggle that we go through with our families is grieving the expectations that we have that aren't getting met. Expectations, fantasy, we kind of lean into a dangerous zone there. But when we don't experience that, it can bring up a lot. It can bring up grief. It can bring up anger. It can bring up wanting space from them, to protect ourselves. It's challenging. And so something inside of you can sense that something is off, and that's the intelligence of your body. And this is why you hear so many people in the trauma healing space, me included, who say, do the EMDR, do the internal family systems, do the somatic experiencing, where you can bring your brain and your body into healthy relationship again. Because what trauma does is it takes us out of our body and into our minds. These healing modalities really do open the door for you to explore the genius that lives in your body. So when you sense that your mom isn't being authentic with you or genuine when you share your wins, it's not just a weird feeling in your gut, it's the truth. It's your truth, rather. How about that? It's your truth. It could be true that your mom is happy for you. Maybe she doesn't know how to express herself. Maybe she feels uncomfortable. It's interesting, right? Because the relationship that we have with our mothers is very, very sensitive and sacred. Our mothers potentially carry us in the womb for 9 months, but the role of the mother is to create a sense of constant security, safety, and that's in attachment, through our emotional experience, but also physically, warmth and love. The role of a mother is to say, you are lovable even in your imperfections, even in your mistakes. And I'm going to be your biggest cheerleader. I'm going to see you fully to help you feel confident, because children feel confident when they're seen. When they're being seen makes them feel validated and important, and that builds confidence, right? So when we don't have that, we start to second guess ourselves. And then if you want to take that a step further, this, depending on how long this has been happening with your mom, if we feel that something is getting in the way of that love and approval and validation and connection with our moms, we will start to sacrifice ourselves in order to get it. So if that love isn't coming from celebration, maybe that love comes from minimizing our wins or walking on eggshells or feeling guilty for being happy because we don't want to make our moms feel bad. I've experienced this. I think many women experience this. You mentioned that when your mom tries to be happy for you, it feels fake. And I just kind of want to pause there because the word fake carries a lot of charge. It really sucks. Nobody likes to be around fake people. It's really hard for us to be around fake people. But I want to just invite you into another thought that maybe what you're feeling isn't fake in terms of manipulation. You know how some people can be fake and it's like manipulating, we see it on TV shows a lot. It actually could be her own form of disassociation. And disassociation is when we disconnect from connection. We leave the moment, we leave our bodies because something is overwhelming for our system or something is bringing up too much for us that we can't handle. So when someone, like a parent, hasn't done their emotional work, they may try to do the right thing or say the right thing or act supportive, but their energy tells the truth. And so you feeling something is off is genius of your body. It's something important to look into. And even if their words say, I'm proud of you, their tone or their body could be saying, I'm uncomfortable. And we register that as fakeness, and then your body knows the difference and it's picking up on something you're feeling. And that's intelligent of your body. So instead of, I don't know what your reaction is if you're calling her out or trying to get her to admit it. I don't know. It doesn't seem that way. Seems like you're just coming to the awareness of this. But I really think the work that's being done here is just about accepting what's real. Bert Hellinger, who is the father, the grandfather, I guess, of family constellation therapy, talks about acknowledging what is. And in this moment, if we were to acknowledge what is, it's about saying to yourself, my mom's trying in the only way that she knows how. I don't have to chase her support if she doesn't have the capacity to give it, but I can acknowledge that she tried. So when it feels fake, you can trust your body, but you can also trust that you can draw a boundary for how much you share if it's not feeling good. Because your joy isn't feeling mirrored. What's actually happening is that you're taken out of your experience and into mom's about managing what she's going to say or managing her feelings about it. And that's enmeshment and entanglement. It kind of also brings me into this thing that I talk a lot about in terms of the core values of ancestral and family healing, which is a tough one, but it's acceptance. And it's the reality that there are some family members in our lives that we have to truly accept as they are, even if we want them to be different. And again, like this can bring up grief in the form of disappointment or anger or sadness or vulnerability or frustration, or again, even wanting space from them, which isn't a bad thing. Your boundaries are a personal choice, a huge personal choice. But we can't take space and then just like not work on what it's bringing up in us. We are the only ones that we can be in control of. The rest, unfortunately, isn't in our sphere of control. So I think when it comes to acceptance, it takes an enormous amount of understanding of other people and of ourselves to get to that place. And sometimes we can tell ourselves that we accept people in our families, but then we're constantly triggered by them. And I know for me, in my experience, there's been people where I'm like, oh, yeah, yeah, like I accept who they are. I accept who they are. And then they would say something and I'd be so triggered. And it wasn't until EMDR and mushroom therapy that I did earlier in the year, which I talk about on my podcast with my therapist Jenny Gennaro. It's one of the last podcast interviews I did before we switched to the Heal with Kat show, where I had to find acceptance in my nervous system, in my body. It was about my body believing my thoughts rather than just me living in my brain. And when I finally was able to accept people for who they were, it doesn't mean that I didn't have frustration or sadness or anger. I still do. It just means that those feelings that I'm having are not taking over my entire experience. And I think it's easy to confuse understanding and acceptance. Many times we aim to understand our family members, because it helps us, it helps free us when we understand them. We don't have to go into like analysis paralysis about them, but I think understanding where our families come from and what their family stories were helps us depersonalize things a lot. But true acceptance is when we're able to have tolerance for people when they're different from us. It's not about perfection. It's about taking people for who they are and being more okay with who they are rather than getting triggered and having sometimes even these unrealistic expectations in our mind of like who they should be, even if it's our moms. So I would be remiss if I didn't touch on the mother wound with this because it's such a potent part of this conversation. So here's how we can address the core of the mother wound in this. I touched on it a little bit, but at its root, the mother wound is about the pain of not feeling fully seen or safe or supported by the one person who is supposed to nurture you, show you a safe love, and even protect you from the world with that love. It's different from the role of protection with a father, where there's more grounding of the family unit. It's like the father is the skeleton. It's the bones of the family system. It's who holds everyone together and creates the structure. The mother is the flesh. It's the emotional nurturance that happens in a family system. And I don't know if it's primal or if it's societal or what. When your mom feels jealous or competitive or emotionally unavailable, it's a wound that gets activated because we're not being met in this connection that we're wired for. Instead of being mirrored with warmth and pride, you're mirrored with discomfort or disassociation or rejection or stonewalling or distance. And then we start to believe that what is being shown to us is the way that the world works. It creates a barrier for healthy, deep, authentic connection with other people. And it can create this deep, confusing internal message that says, it's not safe to be me, or it's not safe to be seen, or I've never been seen, so I don't really know how to navigate that. And that feels uncertain and unsafe, or it's not safe to be successful, or even like my success threatens my relationships. And in terms of family constellation therapy, if you feel that way, the first thing I would look at is where are you enmeshed in an old pattern in the family system? So there's this inner split that happens. There's the part of you that wants to grow and thrive and be successful and have all of your dreams come true versus the part of you that fears being abandoned or rejected if you do. And a lot of times in ancestral family patterns, if no woman has ever made six figures and had a successful marriage and still been able to show up as a mother, like if you've got it all and you've got things that your family members have never had before, and you're feeling that it's threatening your connection with them, that's tough. And what that might do is then trigger a new pattern in the family system. If you have a mother wound and you have patterns of self-sacrificing yourself, it means that you learned that it's better to give yourself up, to give away parts of yourself, to sacrifice yourself so that you could have connection with your mother for her love and connection. And there's a deep, deep sadness in this. There is a deep sadness in breaking this cycle and experiencing transformation around this wound. Now, we don't have perfect mothers. Nope. And when I become a mother one day, I will not be perfect. The older I get, the more compassion I have for my mother, especially when she was in situations I'm blessed that I don't find myself in. And so there's the understanding and the compassion, but the acceptance is in realizing that, yes, I have self-sacrificed parts of myself, including my voice and my desires and my wants, so that I don't make someone else feel bad. Because what comes outside of the transformation, what happens as a result of the transformation is usually beauty and magic and joy and all the things that we desire. I had to do this in my EMDR and mushroom experience earlier this year, and it sucked. It was not fun facing the truth of what is. But the freedom and the liberation that I felt afterwards and the promises that I made myself afterwards were so powerful, just thinking about it now. I was coming home from one of the EMDR experiences and I just started, voice noting a note on my phone of all of the ways that I had not even realized I could heal the mother wound in my maternal and my paternal lineages that, I mean, never occurred to me before. So deep. And instead of gaslighting myself with this new awareness and disassociating, I was fully in my power. And that came from trusting the truth inside of me. And that's the invitation that you have, Anonymous, is to trust the truth that is happening inside of you. Instead of self-sacrificing yourself, trust in your truth. Trust that you are picking up on something that could lead to you breaking a cycle, your transformation, and your liberation. So, when a mother can't celebrate her child and the child learns to self reject before others can, it's a learned pattern of behavior to survive in your environment. It's a protection mechanism. And if you resonate with that, here are a few things that might show up for you in your life. So you might be a woman who diminishes your own light and your own emotional experiences, which continues the cycle of not being seen. You might feel guilty or shame for being happy when your mom is not happy, which continues the cycle of loyalty and enmeshment, because loyalty is not love. You might hide your joy or your achievements around others, especially at work or at home, when there is actually this desire inside of you that you want to be seen and celebrated. So, this is even like disregarding your own internal needs. You might be fearing that you're too much or too visible because like I don't know, is it safe? Are people going to be happy for me? There's so much unknown around this experience, so I'm just going to reject it and hide from it instead of stand in my power and be seen. You might fear being too much or too visible, which if you've never been seen in a safe way and celebrated before, there's a big question mark of like, are people going to be happy for me? Is everyone going to be jealous of me? Are people going to be uncomfortable with my success? Which could be a whole other episode on the sister wound, by the way, and how the mother wound shows up in female friendships. That's a huge one. You might unconsciously seek relationships where you need to dim your light to stay connected. Again, the self-sacrifice. Like, for example, taking a back seat on something like a work project or a project at school when you know that you could actually take the lead for once, that you might actually have a voice and have something to say. And you just, no, I don't want people to criticize me, or I'm afraid that people won't like my idea, right? Because I want to circle back on this. The role of a mother, we talked about it a little bit earlier, is to instill confidence. That's the mother sees the child and says, your words matter, your feelings matter, and I can hold space for this and I can help you work through it, even if it doesn't make sense, right? Like we can work through this together. The last one is really interesting. It's the inability to receive, whether it's love, success, praise, validation, even money. I've done a lot of family constellations around mother wounds and money wounds. When there's a mother wound present, guilt is a really common form of manipulating connection in that mother-daughter dynamic. And so when a mother guilts their daughter, they're essentially saying, hey, in this moment, I have completely taken myself out of the role of mom. You're now my competition. You're now my friend. You're a companion. You're about to have something that I didn't have. And I don't want you to have it, or I'm uncomfortable with you having it because I really wanted it and I didn't get it. So, in essence, that means that you're doing better than me. And that's bringing up a lot of my wounds of unworthiness and inadequacy. And I'm starting to feel abandoned by you. This is a backwards dynamic with a mother and a daughter. This is parentification. This is emotional immaturity. This is narcissism. It's very common. If you are a woman who has had healthy relationships with other women and you've also struggled with a mother wound or being parentified or a narcissistic mother, please drop in the comments your experience. I want other women who haven't had that to see that those kinds of relationships and friendships do exist. I've had plenty of them. It's been very healing for my heart. It was uncomfortable, but very healing. So, Anonymous, healing the mother wound, healing this wound with your mom, healing this sadness around her not being happy for you. It's not about blaming your mom because, from the compassionate lens, it's likely that she's stuck in an old, unprocessed childhood pattern, and you outgrowing her emotionally and even in your life really just presents an opportunity or an invitation to reparent yourself. And we hear it all the time. It's cliche. You know, we're like, oh my God, reparenting myself. I have to love myself before. It's true. It's effective. Our work is to stop expecting our mom to be what we dream her to be and accept her with love, if we can, for who she is. And then in turn, we give ourselves what we need. And maybe that's boundaries. Maybe you say, you know what, for the time being, until I can work through this, I'm not going to have a deeper relationship with my mom. I'm going to learn to celebrate my wins with people who can actually celebrate me. And if I do choose to share a win with her, it's going to be really like casual, and I'm going to work on having no expectations around it. Or maybe your boundary is, I'm not going to share any of my wins with her and just kind of keep my life pretty private. I'll call her every once in a while, catch up, but I can't bear to feel the sadness of that anymore. I will tell you, Anonymous, that this process is so effective that eventually, with enough work and enough love for yourself, you will become the woman that you always needed. And it's a breath of freaking fresh air. It will probably hit you on some random day when you're driving down the road with the windows down, listening to music, the sun is shining, life is actually really beautiful, and you realize all of a sudden that you became the woman that you always needed. Not that I'm speaking from experience or anything, but the woman you feared you'd become is a thing of the past, and you can be proud of yourself. You can let yourself be proud of things that you've done, even if she can't. You can hold your joy even if she can't hold it with you. And you can tell yourself the truth. And the truth is that for the time being, you get to mother yourself by celebrating you. You deserve that. And every time you do that, you're teaching your nervous system that you deserve joy, that you deserve success, that you deserve love, or whatever you deserve. It's safe. You can feel it and you can celebrate yourself. And maybe you even get to celebrate yourself in a group of community of people who celebrate you too. And although it will never fully fill the void that your mother left behind, it will heal you. I promise you that. The weird thing about the mother wound is that it leaves behind these crazy voids that we try to fill through drugs and sex and shopping and food and TV and scrolling and whatever it is. Whatever it is, we try to fill the wound. And healing isn't about arriving to this place where you are fully done. It's just about garnering tools so that you can respond to life differently. And you can navigate life from a place of emotional maturity and even spiritual maturity rather than repeating the cycles that your mom passed down to you. And that's how the mother wound starts to transform when you stop waiting around for your mom's permission to be fully in your power, to be fully in your body, to be fully in your voice, and for your beauty to shine inside and out. So, part of being the cycle breaker here is realizing that your growth in life, your success in life, your beauty in life, it's not a betrayal of your mom. Your success doesn't take anything away from anyone else, especially your mom. And I'm so sorry that you're feeling that you can't be fully who you are and be celebrated and loved for who you are in that relationship. The hard part with emotionally immature and narcissistic parents is that they will make what is going on with you about them. When the medicine is we need the opposite. That's really hard. That's really hard for emotionally immature parents to understand. And it might even bring up some of your unhealed parts. And luckily, that's something that is in your control. You get to keep shining. You get to keep choosing to heal. You get to keep expanding. And you can still hold compassion for her while setting boundaries. That protects your peace, even if that means celebrating on your own. Or, like I said, finding a community of people who will celebrate you genuinely and honestly. So I'll finish with this. Again, somewhat cheesy, but it's a very powerful truth. It's something that I've had to walk on my path with the mother wound, and it's something that I tell all my clients who are, a lot of them are mothers. Your accomplishments, your joy, your light, your love, they belong to you. In the treasure trove of your life, when your soul crosses over one day and you look at your life in review with your guides, you are going to look at the beauty that you brought to this planet, to this earth. These get to be yours. You're not responsible for your parents' insecurities. Your job is not to manage or fix or take responsibility for your parents' insecurities. That's their work. Your job is to focus on making your life so beautiful and so big, however big you want it to be, that you're not sacrificing yourself for others to keep others comfortable. You get to keep growing and keep thriving. And I think it's special because that gets to be a quiet rebellion. I don't know if you took my cycle breaker archetype quiz, but I'd be curious what role you play in your family system. If you're the rebel, the comedian, the hyper independent, the caretaker, or the parentified child. But all of us get to have a little rebellion when it comes to our healing journey. And this gets to be yours, is your success. Because healing your lineage, Anonymous, it doesn't mean dimming your light. It means being brave enough to let it shine, even if it makes other people uncomfortable. I think that's a gift. That makes you a cycle breaker.